When he leaded me. It's so pretty. I like I had a friend, their son, he just started working right here. Just didn't like that at all. So he just decided to come back. So then he worked for that for a couple of years. And he just decided to go. And so then he went back and he decided to do it. So, oh my goodness. So then he went back and did that. And so now he's working for just a private developer. And he was concurring on his land. His cruises and everything. And one day he kept up with the partners. And so he said, well, he just got to think, he says, I'm getting all this land for him. So now he just built his house and set up for himself. Yeah, he just couldn't decide what he wanted. So that's why he made a living.
Yeah, that's why he did it.
Really? That's where that one at. I'll be daggone.
They don't even make ours anymore.
Huh?
We got ours from them.
Oh, yeah.
Because I like a hard mattress and it was sort of older brand, but they don't use it anymore because it's expensive. So I guess if it does, we'll have to get that.
What's the new one? America?
Okay, I think I'm semi-organized. Morning. You can't really say Happy Memorial Day. I can't. Just doesn't sound right coming off my tongue because nobody that we're honoring can actually be here. And nobody that we're honoring is above ground. It's a day where you talk about people who have passed away, servicemen and women who have passed away. Specifically, it was during the act of war. But now it's all of them, which they all deserve that honor. And I have nothing but respect for people who have joined the armed services. I have nothing but respect for people on the ground. I have no respect for the politicians who engage in war, the ones who start them. If you have to defend your country, then you have to defend your country. But in my mind, there are psychos out there. But the people who do defend and the people who fight for us, fight for me, fight for our country and what we believe, I have nothing but respect for them. One thing that's always confounded me is I read or hear things. When I grew up, it was always like down at the beach is where the celebrations were. And people would say things like, well, be sure you're thankful, when you're down there at the beach barbecuing or drinking beer, because somebody died so that you could do that. And I was always like, I hope the dude didn't die so that I could drink a beer. How pathetic is that? And to me, it's a way of not engaging in what's really going on. Because when someone offers their life for you, when you might die and they step in front of the bullet or they confront the person attacking you, you're given an opportunity to evaluate your life. Like a door out of nowhere. You're given a chance to interpret now how you will live your life based on someone else's sacrifice for you. Because I really have a hard time dealing with the fact that I can go drink and eat because someone died. I think there's deeper levels, and I think there's deeper expectations that are involved. What I think they died for was the opportunity for us now to engage in the same battle that they did. They gave us an opportunity to fight at a deeper level the same enemy that they confronted. And it's funny, you read and you hear just how nations that are good at war rot from within. And the reason is because they actually think the soldiers fought for them. They fought against evil. They fought against a worldview where people aren't allowed to be free. And that fight is still on today. What did Eisenhower say in 1961, right? If people can make money at having war, your world will never have the lack of war. And so that's what gives people that cynical edge, where honor is pushed down and the evil of the world is thought just money-making, which money-making is, it can be. The love of money, as James said, is if you dig up the roots, you're going to find love of money down at the bottom. Love of power, what money buys. And so I think, unfortunately, there's a shade of cynicism that goes into what soldiers, men and women, people who defend our worldview, who defend freedom, it gets cast on them. And that's not what I'm doing. What I'm questioning is, what did they die for? What did they die for? And then the question becomes, how do I live my life? Did anybody die for me just so I can party and be greedy and be arrogant? Is that why they died? So I could be unforgiving and unmerciful and not try to talk things out with people? Is that what they died for? So that we can become so self-absorbed as a country that we don't question and that we don't live our lives truly respecting. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. That was Jesus talking. And I just wonder today, on Memorial Day, how do I live my life? How do I live my life? Do I think they really died so I could just enjoy myself and not give a rip about the same evil that's confronting us in our nation today? All respect, all honor to the men and women who died representing our country. All respect. And I think a lot of them, all of them, were in the Father's hands. So, will you pray with me? The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. We're going to sing He Leadeth Me, which is number 447.
I'm going to do the first two verses, then the chorus, the last two verses, and then the chorus. So. apologize.
Yeah, it was perfect. It was perfect.
Will you pray with me? Gracious and loving God, on this Memorial Day, we come before you with hearts full of gratitude and remembrance. We give thanks for the men and women who have given their lives in service to our country, who stood for freedom, justice, and peace, and who paid the ultimate price so that we might live in liberty. Lord, we pray for the families who carry the weight of loss. Comfort them with your everlasting peace. May they know that their loved ones did not die in vain, and that we as a nation honor their courage and sacrifice. Help us, O God, to be faithful stewards of the freedoms we have inherited. Inspire us to live lives of service, compassion, and unity. As Jesus laid down his life for us, may we also be willing to serve and love one another with humility and grace. We lift up our active duty military and veterans. Protect them, strengthen them, and guide their steps. May your hand be upon all who defended and uphold peace in our world. And finally, may we never forget, freedom is not free. Let us live in a way that honors their sacrifice and brings glory to your name. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen. Good morning. It's great to see each of you here at Speed Memorial this morning, and it's great to see Brad Walker back with us. The aerial photo that you see on the screen, the drone shot, was actually captured by Rita's grandson, Cameron Harper. So that's an incredible photo. Rita, would you pass on our thanks? Please remember those on our prayer list this week and anyone you hold in your heart. If you have a name you'd like to add, please feel free to call the office so that we can add it to our prayer list. I also ask that you keep Bill Nunn in your prayers. He's still battling with his pneumonia, so Bill, we hope you get well soon. If you'd like to give today, you can place your gift in the offering boxes at the entrances of the church, mail a check to the office, or give electronically through Venmo, PayPal, or Tidely. Every gift, large or small, helps us continue God's work in our church and community. Let's continue to support one another, grow in faith, and look ahead to the good things God has in store for us.
The love of God
Sorry, I like that random picture of a door, a random door just sitting in the middle of the path. Because I think sometimes life seems random and we're not prepared for the choices we have to make. Like flash anger, you don't even know why you're angry. Flash hunger, when you're sitting there at night, you already ate a 5-course meal, hour later a movie's on and you're hungry again. At least that hits me. Things just come at you from all different angles, and we seem to, there's a surprise to it unless we already have a pre-thought out remedy for it. And it's the same with the thought about Memorial Day. You have a choice. You have a choice. Walk through the door or not. That's kind of, today we're going to go back to the impetus for the first Memorial Day. And I think the one that inspired all the other Memorial Days that will never end for us on this planet in its state that we're in. And it's Genesis 4. Remember, Adam and Eve have just got banished from the garden. They just left the garden yesterday, or last time we preached. So now the story is going to be about life outside the garden. If there's any difference between life inside paradise or life outside paradise. And so we'll find out. We'll see what the story reveals to us. And the remembrance, of course, that Adam and Eve confronted a door and they made a choice and they went through it. And so now when you go through that door, you live the life on the other side of it. And so it said, now Adam knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have created a man with the help of the Lord. And I'm just pointing this out because we're doing chapter 4 in 2 parts. When Seth is born, her other child, she didn't create anything. But right now, when you're fresh out of the garden and you and God have been parted on ways, you give yourself credit. And if you see it in the Hebrew language, that's exactly what she's saying. I've created Cain. I've created a man. Thanks God for helping. And so we can keep that in mind as we think about how Cain, the philosophies Cain might have been taught and adopted. And again, she bore his brother Abel. Now, Abel was a keeper of sheep, or a shepherd as we call it, and Cain was a worker on the ground, or a farmer. In the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground. And Abel also brought an offering of the firstborn of his flock and their fat portions. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. So Cain was very angry, and his face fell. And the Lord said to Cain, why are you so angry? Why is your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is contrary to you. But you must rule over it. Inferring that you do have the power to rule over it. And we'll just stop there because Cain is at a point. Cain is at a door. And there's some kind of creature there called sin crouching there who's contrary to the Cain's life. And I think one of the most important parts of Cain's existence in this moment is his anger, his frustration. And you can take this to a lot of different levels, but God straight said, and this is the God who didn't abandon Cain and Adam and Eve when they left the garden. This is the God who's outside the garden with them. And he said, why are you angry? Why are you frustrated? And I don't think he's just asking it to Cain. I think he's asking it to every human who doesn't live in Eden, who decides to go or not to go through doors. Why are you so angry? Why can't you look at me? This is literally what it says in the Hebrew. They're saying, why are you looking down? Why are you so angry that you can't look at me in the face? If you do right, won't there be lifting up? He's talking about his face. Won't you look at me? And we can infer that Cain knew what was right and what he should do. God is not silent. Cain is not ignorant. Why they were doing offerings is just a whole nother matter. Because we're not privy to any of that talk beforehand. There was no offering system in place yet. Cain went first, and people like to focus on the offering as if that was the reason for everything, but the anger afterward shows that there was already some kind of misfiring going on in Cain's heart. So, I heard that. Oh, sorry. That was Donna opening a canned drink.
I'm gonna start coughing.
I'm just playing. I'm so angry. Cain knew what he was supposed to do. And you can figure out that God didn't like this or God didn't like that. The ground was cursed. And so what Cain was bringing him was a bunch of fruit of the poisonous tree, as they call it in law. Like, here, love ya. But Abel recreated what would later become the foreshadowing of Jesus' sacrifice. And he gave him the fat portions, which is the killer cuts in a lamb. And God honored that. He honored his heart. He regarded his heart. God has the lambs on 1,000 hills. And he has the fruit on 1,000 trees. He has the money of 1 billion banks. He doesn't need any of that. It's your heart that is at stake. It is your heart that will drive you through the door. It's desire. That's what the game is. It's desire. And I don't know what Cain's desire was by bringing him the fruit. And I don't know if Abel just followed Cain, like saw Cain giving his offering to God and figured, oh, I'm the little brother. I guess we're giving an offering. And he went and gave his offering, which was worth more than Cain's. And it wasn't the value of the gift again. Cain's anger betrays the state of his heart. If you do well, will you not be accepted or lifted up? And that's for all of us. That's life outside the garden. And if you don't do well, sin's there. Sin's there, and you can't beat it. You can master it with God's help. But most of us have a tough time with that. Most of us have a tough time with that. It was Cain's choice. So, Cain's at the door. He's back at the door again. Is he going to walk through? And here's the thing. This is Cain's state when he's making the decision right now. What should I do? He's angry. He's frustrated. He doesn't understand. And not the best time to try to make a decision. Not the best time to try to make a decision. When you can't admit what you are and what's going on, and God is talking right to you. You won't look at him, but he's right there talking to you, and your cynicism and your anger and your frustration, and why can't everybody be like me, and nothing goes the way and blah, 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 blah. And God's just sitting there. Dude, careful. Careful. You're at the door. You're at the door. And it says, Cain spoke to Abel, his brother, And when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. There's your choice. There's the door. That was Cain's choice. He thought it would bring him relief to vent on Abel. He had to. Why else would he? He thought it was going to bring him some kind of peace. And now God will have to accept my offering, because there is no other offering. That angry state. I wonder if he felt relief afterwards. I wonder if he felt good about it. Because God's still there. God shows up again. He didn't go away. But Cain made his choice. He went through his door. And again, it's life before the door and it's life after the door. So Cain spoke to Abel, his brother. They went out. He killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is Abel, your brother?" And Cain, "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" So it didn't help. And in fact, it's a great question because the older brother is in fact the keeper. He is the one who's supposed to look out. You can play with this story academically and theologically and however you want to do it. Cain did not take care of his brother. Cain did not look out for what was best for Abel. Cain wanted what Cain wanted. That's it. You don't have to go. You can play and look at semantics and how things are written, but the reality is he just wanted what he wanted. And the Lord said, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground." I just wondered when I saw that picture of the graveyard, how much do you think God hears the crying from the blood on our ground today? Can he hear anything else? What was the Civil War? 600 and something thousand men and women died just down the street. Wonder if God hears that blood. Or the over 1 million soldiers that have perished in all the other wars. Not to mention all the suicides now that go on inside of our armed forces. I wonder if God hears that. He said, "And now, Cain, you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield to you its strength. You shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth." Isn't it funny when you go through a door, how your relationships with everything change? Cain went through a door and his relationship with God even got worse. Where's your brother? Why are you bothering me, man? Why are you on my case? Am I him? He's got his own life. Go talk to him. Oh, good. It's gonna score points with God. Relationship with his family changed. Relationship with the very ground he lives in changed. Relationship changed. First John 3 is right under there. It says, 1 John 3 says this to us, but we never believe this. We can tell who are children of God and who are children of the devil. And it goes against everything I learned. Anyone who does not live righteously and does not love other believers does not belong to God. It's that service thing again. that we're talking about. This is the message you have heard from the beginning. We should love one another. We must not live like Cain, who belonged to the evil one and killed his brother. And why did he kill him? Because Cain had been doing what was evil, and his brother had been doing what was righteous. So don't be surprised, dear brothers and sisters, if the world hates you. Because we are not part of this world. We don't believe in its wars. We don't believe in its values. We don't believe in its systems. We don't believe in its greed. We don't believe in its violence. We don't believe any of that. Do we? Or does the world love us? And John here is just a liar. What's funny is that if you think about it, remember when God was talking to the serpent and said, you know what? Your battle's against the woman and her seed and your seed. Remember he said that to her? And so Cain was actually born of the woman. He was the seed of the woman. And he was supposed to battle against the seed of the serpent. He was supposed to battle against all the hatred and violence and lying and murdering that is attributed to the devil. But look what John says. We must not be like Cain, who belonged to the evil one. Cain's going through the door. He went through the door from one kingdom to another. He was biologically the seed of the woman. But in his heart, he'd given himself over to Satan. The same way we can. The same choices we can make. By what we value and what we love in our relationships with people. We can all do it. We can get so frustrated with everything that it's not the way I like it. That's not God's way. That's not God's way. It says in John, I think it's 12. I should have put an attribution up there. Jesus said, I have come into this world as a light, so that no one who believes in me should remain in the darkness. That's the door, I think. It's a path. Jesus is the light for us in the darkness. Jesus is the light. And you know what? We got 5 minutes here, so I'm going to show a video.
In the first century, an Israelite rabbi began a movement that he said fulfilled the Torah and the prophets, which were his ancient scriptures.
Jesus of Nazareth announced this movement among the powerless, the sick, and the poor who hungered for a world set right. He called these people to radical peacemaking and generosity, and he called this movement the arrival of the kingdom of the skies.
So remind me, what does Jesus mean by the kingdom of the skies?
Well, in the Bible, the skies are the ultimate image of God's realm, where life and justice prevail. And so heaven, arriving on earth, means God's goodness, overcoming death and violence here on the land. In fact, the biblical story begins with this kind of heaven on earth place.
Oh yeah, the Garden of Eden.
Yes, walking with God in the garden, sustained by his love, building a home together. This is the way of life. But there was a gate and a path out of the garden that led away from God's life.
Why would anyone ever choose that path?
Well, a deceptive creature appeared in the garden who told the humans God could be trusted, and that the good life could also be found by taking this easier way.
But this path leads to violence and death.
Right. So the Torah and prophets tell the story about God choosing one family, Israel, and then giving them his Torah, his instruction about how they could return to God's presence once again, how they could build homes and communities where God can come and live among them, how they can even demonstrate to the rest of the world the way back to God's life.
But even with God's instruction, Israel was also deceived. They took another path.
Yeah, they were deceived by their own
Jesus is claiming that God's kingdom has arrived with him.
Right. Jesus is creating a new group of Israelites who will take the right path. They'll reject deceivers and build something that lasts if they accept this call. And so, in this closing section of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus presents a choice.
Enter through the narrow gates, because wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to ruin, and those who enter through it are many. How narrow is the gate, and how constricted is the road that leads to life, and those who find it are few.
Jesus wants to be clear. The path to life is not easy. It can feel confining at times, and you're likely to face difficult trials, but in reality, it is the way to true freedom.
So, there will be people who will try to lead you off the path of life.
Yes, or as Jesus continues,
Watch out for illegitimate prophets who come to you in the clothing of sheep, but inside they are wolves who snatch. Okay, but if they're disguised, how can I recognize them as wolves?
well, pay attention, Jesus says, to how they live, whether their choices produce life and flourishing for themselves or other people, or not.
By their fruits, you will recognize them. Fruit meaning the outcome of someone's decisions, their way of life.
Right. If you're the kind of person whose actions produce disease fruit, you won't last in God's new reality.
Okay, but life is more complex than that. I could produce enough good fruit to fool a lot of people, even fool myself.
Maybe, for a while, but you won't fool God, as Jesus says.
Many will say to me on that day, Master, didn't we prophesy in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and do many mighty acts in your name? And then I will declare to them, I have never known you. So someone could imitate the actions of Jesus, but never be known by him?
Well, remember, Jesus warned about doing the right thing for the wrong reasons. If our motives are disconnected from our actions, we miss out on a life-giving, intimate connection that Jesus offers with himself.
A connection with Jesus himself.
Jesus isn't just presenting a choice about our behavior. The choice is about how we respond to him. Will we let him transform our ways to be more and more aligned with God's ways? Or, as he puts it next, where are we going to build our house? On the sand or on the rock?
That's a memorable image, but kind of random.
Not really. In the Hebrew scriptures, the house of God is the most common phrase to describe God's temple, up on the rocky hill of Jerusalem. It's an image of how God's followers can build a community where God's heavenly presence can reside here on earth, just like in our meeting.
So then, everyone who hears these words of mine and does them, it will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And rain came down, and the rivers came, and the wind blew, and they fell upon the house, but it did not fall, because the foundation was on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them, they will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain came down, and the rivers came, the wind blew, and it fell upon that house, and it fell, and its falling was huge. So, build places where God can reside, and where Eden can spring to life, because ultimately, those places are the only ones that will last.
Yes. And just like Jesus said at the very beginning of the sermon, a city on a hill cannot be hidden. So let that light shine for everyone to see. Jesus is describing a new humanity who lives together by God's wisdom and love, creating communities of peace and justice in the midst of violence and death that surrounds on every front. In all the teachings of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus has given us a bold vision for what this could look like. And through the rest of his own life, Jesus lived out that vision, and he offered his followers the choice to do the same. And now, that choice is ours.
And now that choice is ours. Today, tomorrow, if it comes, yesterday you had the same choice. I have the same choice. What doors will you walk through? What decisions will you make? It was funny how they identified the wolves as the leaders of the church, as the leaders of the religions. And the prophets in Israel were telling you, oh, everything is going to be fine. The Romans are just coming to visit. they're not going to destroy our temple. God will protect us. After all the decisions they had made against God. It's kind of like a game they play. Now they can sell God to us. If someone holds a Bible, oh, they must be a Christian. Or if they give whatever fancy speech. But you can see by their fruit, does their work benefit them or does it benefit others? Is what Jesus said. Kind of radical, kind of weird, kind of not what the world preaches. But you can watch and you can see. And so now we can tell who are the children of God and who are the children of the devil. But don't judge them. Just learn to stay away. Learn to stay away. You're not the judge. But it's your life. It's your choice. And it was given to you by God so that you can shine a light for His kingdom. We're going to sing Great is the Lord, which is number 7. Sneak this picture in one more time. Only use it in one sermon. And it's bizarre, so I like it. And I know we all know this, right? John 10. Jesus had just been told a story about how the sheep recognize their shepherd's voice. And there's a gatekeeper, doorkeeper, who opens the door to let them go when they hear. And Jesus said, my sheep know my voice. They get it. When I say these things that are crazy and anti-culture and all that stuff, they hear me. They know what I'm saying. They're my sheep. And they were like, well, that's a weird metaphor. And so Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and robbers. But the sheep don't listen to them. Didn't listen to them, don't listen to them now. I am the door. if anyone enters through me, she will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I come that they may have life and have it abundantly. Jesus' followers hear that. They hear his voice on the TV when they're trying to tell you something one way and you know it's the other way. The world doesn't control you. You're the follower. There's nothing to be angry at. There's nothing to be angry at such that you sever your relationship with God. You sever your relationship with people. You sever a relationship with your own heart. You can be frustrated. You can go, I don't know what the heck is going on, but I'm not going to jeopardize my peace and my relationship with Jesus. And that's your choice to have a relationship with him. That's your choice. Have a good week. I can't say Happy Memorial Day, but